Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button, and if you want to submit to be on the show, take a look at the information in the description.
This is actually played live about 2 weeks ago, right before the shutdown.
Where's this played out of?
A small town about 200 miles northwest of Houston. Austin.
Oh, okay. Is it like a home game or something, or?
No, it's a small room, but it's really small town.
In Texas?
Yes.
So is it kind of one of these like quasi-legal places, sort of?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's
Okay.
one of the clubs.
All right, so 1-2 no limit. Yep.
Yeah, plays 300 cap.
Okay.
The villain is a 30-year-old male, has about a stack of 640 and is in the cutoff.
Okay.
And hero is upper 50s and on the button, and I cover.
Okay. So 640 effective at 1-2 300 cap. Okay.
There are 3 open limps,
Uh-huh.
including the villain, and I make it 25 on the button with ace of hearts, jack of spades.
All right, so you make it 25 on the button with ace of hearts, jack of spades. Now, when you had emailed me in, did you say that there was a straddle or something in this hand, or no?
The straddle is more often than not. More players straddle and it's a Dallas straddle. But most of them do it. I do not.
Okay. You do not, and a Dallas straddle is on the button, or what?
Correct. Yeah, Texas straddle, Houston straddle, Dallas straddle, it's all the same thing.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you say that you don't, because if everybody else is straddling on the button and you're not, you're probably at a disadvantage. I did a thing, I don't know if you're a CLP subscriber, but I did a thing on, somebody had emailed me about, I guess you could say etiquette or what you can do to keep a game good. And that somehow just turned into me saying basically what I think is bad for the game, so to avoid these things. And I don't mean to come after you necessarily, personally, but I do think that sometimes, like, if everyone's straddling and you don't straddle, it can sometimes be a bad look. But I mean, with a button straddle, though, it's like to your advantage to do so, to the point where if everyone else is doing it, you're at a disadvantage.
Well, it's not everyone. It's probably 6 out of 10 players do.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
I don't catch any heat at all for not doing it,
okay.
and I'll actually toss it on once in a while.
Okay. All right.
I've played in games where it's more prevalent, and I will do it.
Okay, so all right. So some people in the live chat were saying, Bart, why don't you do the meetup game on Bros? Yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that. That's interesting. I just haven't had really the time with these different things. But so 1-2 no limit, 300 cap, 640 effective, limp, and you make it 25. What's the standard open at 1-2, by the way? Is it like 10 to 15 or something?
Well, there's really not a standard, but in this particular game, making it 25, I have seen as many as 7 callers. I mean, this game gets crazy.
Okay.
And
you're just doing it over 2 limps. I just wonder what people open to if there were no limpers. Is it usually like 15 or something like that?
15 would not even scare anybody.
Okay.
You will not thin the field at all with 15 in this game.
So limp, you make it 25. Okay.
Under the gun 2, fairly early position calls, and the villain in the cutoff calls.
So both limpers call.
Oh no, there were actually, I cleaned out 1 or 2. There was 3 limps before me, and then I, raised it up. Both blinds folded, but we had a fold call on the other limper.
And the primary villain is in the hijack, right?
Cutoff.
Cutoff. Okay. All right. So 3 ways. All right. Ace jack. All right. Let's go to the flop.
The flop, it comes out jack high, rainbow, but it's as I recall, it was jack of hearts, 10 of clubs, and 4 diamonds.
Okay. So you flop top top
Uh,
top pair.
cor- correct.
Okay.
Um, both both players check to me. I fire 25 at it.
Okay.
Undergun calls, and then the main villain, the cutoff, raises it to 75.
Okay. So
Um,
I'm going to do this approximate because you had said plus. So some guy from up front who limped, the first limper, under the gun, 1, 2, whatever, he calls, right? The first limper calls the
mhm.
call pre. And then the cutoff makes this sort of weirdish type of min raise. You bet 25, right? Is that right? Hero bets 25.
Correct.
So you bet 25 into 80. That's kind of a small bet. I mean, I know it's a rainbow board. It's Jack of Hearts, 10 of Clubs, 4 of Diamonds, right? But this type of board usually does hit like, field callers, limp callers. Why did you choose that sizing into like an $80 pot, just out of curiosity?
Um, quite honestly, I was looking to induce the upfront player. The upfront player is extremely splashy, and I definitely wanted to look at seeing what he did with it. Um,
Okay, so the
it,
upfront player was extremely splashy. So, but I mean, if he's but guys who are splashy, I mean, I feel like they're gonna call. I guess my approach here would be to bet larger to get called, as opposed to trying to induce kind of a bluff. I mean, obviously, I'm not folding now. Here's what's a little bit concerning for me in this spot, and this just comes from years of live poker, is that okay? So you bet 25, we get this call, and then this guy sort of like makes a very, very small raise in between. And that can be somewhat troublesome. Where it's really, really scary is instead of, say, the guy started with 640, like, say he started with like 200 or like 150. I'm talking about the guy in the cutoff, and you bet 25 and under the gun called, and he made it like 60, leaving himself like 100 left. That's so, so strong. Here, I don't know if he thinks he's just trying to flush out, if he's got a hand like King Jack or Queen Jack and he's trying to flush it out or something. But I'm obviously not going to fold now, but this is a little bit concerning for me, this raise. I'm assuming that you called?
yes, I did.
Okay, and what did the under the gun 2 guy do?
He went away.
Okay, so call fold. So 75, 150 on the flop. So the pot's like about, I'd say about 250. We'll call it probably somewhere around there.
Yeah,
All
right
right.
at 250.
Yeah, let's go to the turn.
The turn actually hits me well. Ace of spades.
Well, it hits you well in the sense that you have aces up now. So
Correct.
the only, the only thing that really does for you is now you beat Jack 10. King Queen, which is maybe a hand that somebody would make this play with, now gets there, right? Like when you look at like what primary draw would somebody raise on Jack 10-4, it would probably be King Queen, which would be 2 overcards and an open-ended straight draw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he's got like King Jack or Queen Jack, he's probably going to check. So, is it a good card for you? Yeah, it probably is. You're still behind to a set of 4s and you're still behind to King Queen, but you're beating Jack 10 now, and you were ahead of Queen Jack or King Jack anyway. So this will be interesting to see what your opponent does.
Well, he bets out small at 75.
So cutoff bet 75, which is a little under 1/3 the size of the pot, okay?
And I actually went ahead and made it 250.
Okay, so Hero raises to 250. Now, the thing here is that doesn't this pretty much almost commit you? I mean, you've 325, I guess you've got 300 left, but I can't imagine that you're going to raise fold here. What are you trying to get called by here? Just like out of curiosity. Like when he continues to bet 75 here, so he check raised to 75, right? On the flop, and you called, and now on the turn, he bet 75. So what kind of hands do you think he has here?
Well, this particular villain has quite honestly mystified me a little bit. That he's shown up with some crazy things, and unfortunately he has gotten me more often than not. And it just he actually bluffed me off of an overpair earlier in the night with nothing.
Yeah.
With
Well, that's kind of interesting though, because even with that, so what I was going to say is I feel like your hand is a little bit in between here. Like, yeah, you'll get value from Jack 10, but you are behind those other hands. And if you're saying that this guy tried to bluff you off an overpair and it worked, I very well might just continue to call here. I don't, I
okay.
mean, specifically to raise with Ace Jack here when this card comes is just saying, hey, like, I want to get value from Jack 10. Because you're not going to get, first of all, the guy's probably not betting King Jack or Queen Jack here. If he was, as somebody in the chat was saying, if he was making some sort of BS raise, some bullshit raise, like you want him to continue to bluff. So I think that this actually might be a little bit too in between. I would probably just call the turn bet, even though I've always preached that the same size bet on the turn is usually kind of like bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, for
Hmm.
example, let's say the turn paired the 4 or the turn was a 3, and then instead of you having ace jack you had like aces or kings or something like that, so you bet and the guy made it 75 and you called. Then the turn was a 3 and he bet 75 again, so it was jack 10 4 3 and I had like aces or kings. I'd be much more apt to raise with aces and kings on jack 10 4 3 than I would here with ace jack on jack 10 4 ace, just because of the nature of what the turn card does to his hand and how it interacts with his check raising range. So I probably would have just called. You raise to
Okay.
250, and I assume if he shoves, you're not going to fold, right? I mean, you've committed half your stack, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Against him, I'm not folding.
Okay, so you make it 250.
And he goes in the tank and eventually calls.
Okay. So V1 calls. So you put in 500 on the turn. The pot is 7. It's like 830, and I want to say you've got like 300 left, something like that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has a little less than 300,
Okay.
and 750 in the pot.
Okay. Yep. So we'll go to the
The
river.
river is an offsuit king.
The an offsuit king, 750 in the pot. Excuse me. So king X. So the board is Jack 10 4 Ace King.
Hmm.
Okay.
And he thinks for about 30 seconds, and he shoves.
So V1 shoves, and he's betting what you said. How much is it? 330 ish, something like that.
No, about 290.
Okay. So 290. So 290 into 750. So the pot's going to be about 1,040, 290 to call. So you're getting about 3.5 to 1. I would say what's bizarre here about this hand is the fact that he's now representing a queen here, and I don't know how many queens he has. So let's take a look at. I mean, I guess he could have. I don't know if he's got queen jack here, which would be like a bullshit check raise on the flop, and then continue to bet and call a raise. That doesn't seem like that. You know, that doesn't seem like a play that would happen all that much. Ace queen, which would be 2 overcards and a gut shot on jack 10 4 flop that turns an ace, that's probably going to be raised pre-flop. So it's really hard here for him to have a queen 9, which would be check raised as a draw and then bet call turn. That's probably not going to happen. So it's really hard for him to have a queen here, unless he had king queen on the turn and didn't decide to shove back, which I guess is possible. I just wonder if you accidentally ever lose here. Now, the hands that you would accidentally lose here to would be a hand like a set of fours. And what I mean by accidentally lose is that the guy just doesn't know what he's doing, so he just jams a hand here because he doesn't want to call a bet, and then you accidentally lose to a better hand. But I don't know if fours would do that. It's really tough for me to think of a hand here that where this guy's got a queen unless he specifically had king queen. So he because I don't, unless he's so bad that he's like check raising the flop with queen jack or queen 10 and then bet calling the turn. People are saying queen 9, but really, I mean, queen 9 is going to bet the turn and call or raise on the turn. I mean, I guess. So I just, I mean, it's one of these things where you're getting about 3.5 to 1. Let's put it this way: he either thinks he's bluffing or he has it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really what it is here. And the problem sometimes though too is that the hands that he thinks he's bluffing with, do you ever lose to? Like for example, pocket fours, where you call and he's like, "You're good, straight's good," and he turns over like pocket fours. I mean, if you've seen this guy do some crazy shit like out there, in the sense that he tried to bluff you off some and play wacky, and you're saying you're not going to fold to this guy when you raise turn, I would probably call here at the end. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to have a queen here, unless he had the ultimate nuts where it was king queen. But I think what you should take away from this hand is that I probably wouldn't raise the turn. What ended up happening?
Great. Well, and I called because I just couldn't believe, he did it to me again. He showed up with pocket queens.
Pocket queens that he limped in with.
Yes.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Correct.
And he called the turn?
Wow. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you should take away from this is don't be results oriented. He ends up showing up with this hand. He shows up with this hand, but it's really, really strange, right? It's really, really strange. The limp pre-flop. The check raise on the flop, I get. Why didn't he just limp re-raise you? Right? I mean, you made it 25 on the button. 2 people called in front of him, right? 3 people. Why isn't he limping to limp re-raise? And then he continues to bet on the turn. It's just wacky.
I've seen him do this with aces, kings, and now queens.
Yeah.
Pre-flop. I mean, he's apparently becoming famous for limping these big premiums.
I guess, but I mean, usually when people limp big premiums, though, they're going to limp re-raise. That's the point. It's so odd. But anyways, I appreciate the call. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call-in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.